don't know.
Man, superhero movies in the 90s had their own style. I need to talk about this. Comic books have been around for nearly a century. And for that same amount of time, publishers have been trying to get them into every form of media, whether it be radio, television, movies. These companies have always seen them in more places than just on the page. Superman first appeared in Action Comics #1 way back in April of 1938. 2 years later, he's on the radio. About a decade after that, we'd see him on the big screen. Then television came soon after, and in 1978, with Christopher Reeve, we would believe a man could fly. After Reeve suited up, studios knew they had a hit on their hands. They knew that Batman would be the most likely to follow, so the rights were bought. Production began, and began, and began. It would take them a decade to bring Batman to the big screen. Since rumors had been swirling about a Batman movie since the first Superman, many wondered if it was going to be kind of the camp version that Adam West had been in. So with the announcement of comedic actor Michael Keaton for the lead role, everyone just assumed that's what it was going to be. But then 1989 happened, and Tim Burton made a serious Batman movie. So now we had Superman treated seriously. We had Batman treated seriously. Batman was the second highest grossing movie of 1989, only behind Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It was a huge commercial success. So naturally, every studio wanted a superhero, and they wanted them now. So today I thought, let's discuss 5 of those. So my criteria for these 5 were after Batman came out, since it kind of kicked off superhero fever, and before Blade came out, since Blade's getting credit for kind of kick-starting the Marvel stuff. So you have Blade to X-Men to Spider-Man and then to Iron Man. So that's it. These 5 movies were theatrically released between Batman and Blade. Going in chronological order, we start with Darkman, 1990. Sam Raimi had originally wanted to make The Shadow, a movie that actually appears a little later in the video. He could not secure the rights, so he decided to write and direct an original superhero movie. It wasn't based on a previously done character, and this movie is bonkers. First of all, it is very Sam Raimi. If you've seen his movies, then you understand what I'm talking about. He has those real quick zooms combined with characters just going apeshit. Once you see it the first time, you'll see it in all of his movies. Liam Neeson comes in fresh off the heels of Next of Kin as Peyton Westlake. This was his first action movie leading role, and depending on what movies you consider action, we wouldn't see him do it again for almost 20 years, and that's the Taken franchise. Frances McDormand's in this. She plays his love interest, Julie Hastings. She would actually continue working and delivering solid performances, but I think it was 1996's Fargo that would really launch her into the actress we know her as today. The gist of this movie is Liam Neeson, his character Westlake, is a scientist trying to perfect skin replacement. The masks that he's creating, they break down after 99 minutes. He figures out that they are light sensitive and will last longer in the dark. Darkman, right? So Frances McDormand, her character, Julie Hastings, is a lawyer who stumbles upon an incriminating memo of a business developer. Spoiler alert, but this developer knows she has the memo. They send some goons to get it. They find Liam Neeson and they kill him. At least they think they kill him. He undergoes an experimental surgery to sever the nerve that transmits pain to the brain, really so he can function. In fact, I think the doctors say something like he would just be screaming all the time if he didn't have it. So this leads to the brain craving feeling, and since he can't sense pain, his other emotions become heightened. He has this crazy laughing and these outbursts of anger, and oh, the outbursts of anger. So Sam Raimi, I actually think he shows these beautifully. It's very reminiscent of when Bill Bixby would turn into the Hulk. Danny Elfman's score lends itself to Raimi's bonker style really well, though it does sometimes feel like some of it was just discarded during Beetlejuice. You can really hear that. So this was the first superhero movie out after Batman. It was an original. The studio, Universal Pictures, they wanted to be cautious. So Darkman was made on a modest $14 million budget, and it scored big at the box office. It raked in over $48 million and was a commercial success. Sadly, this is the only movie on our list that can claim that honor. Next, we have 1991 and The Rocketeer. This movie was based on a comic book character from independent publisher Pacific Comics. Character was created in 1982, and the film rights were sold almost immediately. It dragged on in production for quite some time, but after the success of Batman, Walt Disney Pictures wanted their own superhero out there. This is quite some time before their acquisition of Marvel, so their picks for heroes were quite limited. It was also Disney, so they wanted something safe and something that the family could enjoy. And something safe is what they got. The movie's good, but it's not memorable. The Rocketeer character is certainly unique, and that's what everyone remembers. But the movie did not do well financially. Billy Campbell played the lead role, Cliff. In fact, the director, Joe Johnston, he had to fight for him, as the studio wanted someone a little more established. The movie featured a really good supporting cast. Jennifer Connelly of Labyrinth fame. She was a love interest, Jenny, and she was coming hot off the heels of career opportunities. Alan Arkin, he's the friend/mentor Peavy. Terry O'Quinn, that I think most people remember from Lost. He pops up in here as Howard Hughes. Paul Sorvino as the gangster, Eddie Valentine, and I think Timothy Dalton steals the movie as actor Neville Sinclair. So the gist of this movie is Nazis are after a jetpack made for the government by Howard Hughes. As they are being chased by the FBI, they stash it in the hangar of Cliff and Peavy. They find it, decide to use it to make some money, to wow crowds at an air show. Cliff ends up saving a pilot from that air show, and since he was in the papers, the Nazis and the FBI are after him. So, like I said, it's a good movie, but the meat and the potatoes are really all you need. The effects are pretty good for their time. They still hold up for the most part, but that's partly due to the fact that this movie cost anywhere from $35 to $40 million to make. At the box office, it made $46.7 million, which does not come close to getting its budget back. So, real quick, a very oversimplification of how movie budgets and box office relate. Let's say a movie costs $20 million to make. The marketing of that movie will be anywhere from 25 to 50% of that. So let's say it's a modest marketing plan, so $5 million. So we're now at $25 million to break even. Movie theaters are a distribution system. Now there's some varying percentages of what the theater takes and what the studio makes on the price of a ticket, but the generally held rule is you can look at it as a 50-50 split. So with that in mind, this $25 million movie would have to make $50 million at the box office for the studio to break even. Now, getting back to The Rocketeer, we see that with a budget of 35 to 40 million, and Disney marketed that movie pretty heavily. Even with the benefit of the doubt, they would have to make $100 million just to break even. Not even James Horner's score could save this one. So this is our first superhero movie bomb of the post-Batman era. In the middle, we have the Meteor Man. That's actually a pretty fitting spot. I recently watched it again, and I found that the movie itself felt like it didn't know what it wanted to be. Was it a comedy? Was it a superhero movie? Was it a statement on the black community needing to rely on themselves more in order to be safe? Kind of a be the change you want to see message? It felt like it wanted to be all of those things and maybe stretched itself a little too thin. I know Robert Townsend wanted to have a family movie out that had a hero that people of color, especially children, could look up to. The acting in this movie is solid, but the individual parts don't necessarily make the whole great. Although it was trying to be original, I think it came out as more the same. This strayed into the trope of Superman, and it hadn't been that long since the last Superman movie, Superman 4, that wasn't that good. Meteor Man follows Robert Townsend as Jefferson Reed, a substitute teacher that is just trying to teach his kids the way life is. His community is trying to make itself better by getting people to see not how life is, but how it could be. One night, while running from a gang, a meteor crashes into Reed and is absorbed into him. So he wakes with newfound powers and struggles with the backlash brought upon his community because of how he has chosen to use those powers. Meteor Man did not start as a comic book character, so this movie is based on Townsend's original idea. Unlike the other movie to do this, Darkman, this movie was not received well commercially. It had a $20 million budget, but only made $8 million at the box office. Roger Ebert wrote about the movie saying, and I quote, "The movie contains big laughs and moments of genuine feeling, but it seems to be put together out of assorted inspirations that were never assembled into one coherent storyline. Kids may like the film, and anyone can enjoy moments of inspiration, but The Meteor Man could have been better if it had tried to do less more carefully." And I think that sums it up perfectly. Next up, what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows. It started as a 1930 radio show. Then, because that was so popular, they started publishing it in a magazine in 1931. Now, this movie, released in 1994, paid homage to its source material, but then also had fun in its execution. Alec Baldwin brought all of his charisma as Lamont Cranston by day and the Shadow by night. With that sexy voice and those stunning good looks, who didn't want to see this movie? Well, it turns out a lot of people didn't want to see it. With a budget of $40 million, this movie only made $48 million at the box office. And it's a shame too, because Baldwin was brilliant in this role. Penelope Ann Miller, she stuns as his love interest, Margot Lane. I do feel like Ian McKellen was wasted in his role, but Tim Curry ate every scene up that he was in. The movie follows the Shadow trying to thwart Genghis Khan's last living descendant from destroying the city with a new type of explosive device, the atomic bomb. It had a beautiful score from Jerry Goldsmith, but ultimately the movie was a commercial failure. Now, it's gained a little bit of a cult following since its release due to it being just such a fun watch. We've come to the last movie on our list, The Phantom. Was this movie good? Not really. Were there some good things about it? Yeah. Billy Zane did a wonderful job as the lead. Kit Walker / The Phantom. The character first appeared in a comic strip of that same name in 1939. As of this recording, it is still being printed in several Sunday papers. The movie follows Zane as the Phantom, or as the locals call him, the Ghost Who Walks. One of the reasons he's known as this is because he's been protecting this tribe and the world for 400 years. The secret? It's not him. His ancestors took up the mantle, and they keep passing that responsibility down to their heirs. Christy Swanson plays the love interest, Diana Palmer. Catherine Zeta-Jones plays Sala, and Treat Williams plays Xander Drax. He is really charismatic and looks like he's having a lot of fun with the role. It also has, hey, I recognize that guy, James Remar, who also has a really unique voice. Hiroyuki Tagawa, Mr. Shang Tsung himself, he's also in this as the ultimate bad guy. But I feel like by the time we get to him, it's a little too late to be introducing a new character. They really should have introduced him a lot earlier, so that payoff would have just been better. The movie also seems to jump around from place to place rather quickly, and not in a fun way like Indiana Jones. I think it could have been better if they picked just 2 or 3 spots and kept it smaller. Now, having said that, the stunt work looks amazing in this movie. The score was fine, but it wasn't memorable. It just felt like a standard action flick. It was like the studio said, hey, what worked in other movies? Let's just do that. Almost like paint by number, but with scenes. Like, hey, shoot this movie. So some came out good, most not so much. Billy Zane was the highlight though, so they nailed his casting. It just wasn't enough though, as the budget was anywhere from 45 to 50 million, and the box office only raked in $23.5 million. So after this, a lot of studios seemed to slow down on their superhero movies, and they would start licensing more well-known characters or rebooting popular franchises. The exception to this is Blade. He was a relatively unknown character at the time, but they attached a big star, Wesley Snipes, and brought in a good script. It helps when you get David S. Goyer. They also leaned more into the horror element. They spent $45 million to make it, probably only 10 to 15 to market it, and made over $130 million at the box office. So you knew there was a sequel coming. Movies that I didn't mention were the other Batman movies that came out during this same time. So you have Batman Returns. It saw Tim Burton and Michael Keaton returning. But after that, the movies became kind of popcorn flicks. When they came out, as a kid, I loved them. And it's because you see things differently when you're a kid. Now it's easy to see they weren't that good. Now, I do remember a huge marketing blitz, and there was a lot of controversy that seems kind of silly now. Nipples on the batsuit, anyone? So that's it. That's my 5 movies before. My favorite of those 5, I would pick The Shadow. I just love that movie. I watch it every year. It's just a really fun watch. And I love, like I said, they pay homage to the source material. That's why in the movie you see him looking completely different when he turns into the Shadow, because that's how he was drawn in the magazine. And so they wanted to kind of pay homage to that. But maybe it got lost because it was such an old character, and in the 90s, as you've seen in this list, there's a lot of really crazy movies going on until the MCU kind of comes in and starts making it kind of standard. Now, the Spider-Man movies did come out. Sam Raimi did go on to direct those. Very stylistic choice on those movies. They do seem very Raimi-esque. He doesn't do another MCU movie until Doctor Strange 2, which that one you could see some of his fingerprints in, but it wasn't completely Sam Raimi. It looks like maybe he kind of got locked in by the studio there. And it's a shame because there's a lot of MCU movies in there that it feels like they kind of said, hey, you got to stick to this formula because it works. And some do and some don't. But those are the 5 movies that came out before kind of the MCU did take over, for better or worse. Are there any that you think I missed? If so, let me know in the comments.